Fitting in all the writing skills that we need to in a year can feel completely daunting. Well, I'm going to share with you how I use blocks of time throughout the year to fit it all in. So stick around. Hi, I'm Robin Mellum, children's book author with HarperCollins and Disney Hyperion. I'm also a middle school teacher. I teach writing, and I have created a program for Writers Workshop that is student-led. It gets them super involved in the whole writing process. It's just completely, I don't know how else to explain it other than to say it's so joyful. I mean, honestly, we're just like every day, they're loving it. I've had such a great experience this year, and I've been sharing a lot of these stories along the way of what's been happening with my sixth graders this year. And I wanted to talk a minute about how to schedule your year out and get blocks of time so that you can make sure you have everything fit into the amount of time that you have. It's taken me a long time to get to this point of feeling confident that I can meet the standards, hit the skills, and get the kids involved to where they're loving writing and they have confidence and stamina. And those are the two things that I focus on. Like in my mind, philosophically, I want my students to have confidence and I want them to have stamina. And the whole way that this is set up, that's what it's leading to, is can they go into the world? Can they move on from this grade to the next grade feeling confident that they can tackle whatever it is without needing someone else to tell them how to do it, which is what happens sometimes in writers' workshops is they feel like they're waiting and being told what is expected, what are you doing next? We need to give them more time to make decisions for themselves, what kind of graphic organizers they need, all that. Now, when I set up my year, and I'll go through all this with you on my screen, I basically break it down to 3 different sections or types of writing that they need to do. And I fill in with the big part, which is essays. I do not teach my essays during Writers Workshop. I just don't feel like that actually makes any sense. I don't know how else to say it. Because to me, Writers Workshop is when we're practicing skills, we're trying new stuff, we're trying to be fearless, we're not being worried about how is this going to turn out. You have to build confidence by not being scared. And if we're scared of the grade or we're scared of the opinion or the feedback, it can stifle them a long time. It's not good. So what I do is I take my essays and I block them in 10 days. 10 days. That's it. And the majority of the kids can get an essay done in 10 days. The problem in the past has been like if you let it go beyond 10 days when you're doing an essay. And I have heard of some programs where they spend like weeks, 8, 9 weeks working on an essay. And if that's working for you, that's great. That's great. I think that's great. For me, like by the time I get past day 10, when we hit day 11, they have suddenly just like that Monday, they've lost all will. They're like, no. So there's something psychological about the amount of attention we can give to something, particularly kids of that age. That 10-day mark is when it kind of hits of like, okay, I think we're tapped out. We're done here. So in the workshop, because it's student-led and there's all these systems that I have set up to where they can run the whole thing themselves, once we get to the end of the essay block, if there are students who still are not done and need my help, I can work with them while the rest of them move on to new stuff and they run it themselves. So it's kind of like a beautiful mix of workshop and essay writing so that you can get everything done. It's differentiated, all that. So then I work on the essay blocks and then I fill in with short constructed responses using the RACE strategy. I'll show you that. And then I fill in throughout the year with the 6 super skills. So what I'm going to do is take you to my screen and I will show you how I set up my whole year of writing. All right, so here's how I do my pacing for the year. And I did put a little note on here that dates are apt to change because I wing it. I know a lot of us do, but I kind of get a general outline of where I want everything to fall. And then I just kind of change my mind all the time. That's how it goes. So I first fill in with what my essays are going to be for the year. At the beginning of the year, typically it's narrative writing, September and October. Then we move on to informative writing or expository writing. And by the next semester, we're working on our argumentative writing. And then if possible, I get in a compare and contrast essay, but I like to do something that's really student-centered where they're doing products or passions, like comparing this to that. For my sixth graders in particular, that's good. And by the end of the year, if they're still hanging on with me, we do one-pagers. So there's a lot more art involved with it. So that's kind of like generally where all my essays will fall during the year. But then in between those is when I insert these short constructed responses, which is something they need to know on the state test. It's that standard where they respond with text-based evidence. They have to use a quote oftentimes. They have to explain their answer. There's a certain way that I teach it as well. So I think I'm going to do a whole nother video just separately on how to do short constructed responses because I'm kind of particular about how I teach those. So those are done. Sometimes I like to do them once a week and then everything kind of falls apart and I don't do it that often, but at least a couple of times a month, we're doing short constructed response using the race strategy. So then after that, this is where I take my 6 skills and now we're starting to sprinkle them in. So I don't worry about what to teach next because I know that on that wheel of skills that I have, and if you haven't seen that video, go back and watch about the 6 skills that I teach. At the beginning of the year, I put a lot of time into voice and hooks. We kind of do it, we go over it and over it and over it. And then I move on only depending on when they're ready. I can kind of tell some years it's like they get it and they're going, and then some years I really need to give them like more time. By quarter 2, we're layering in sentence complexity, which, and I have all these lessons for these as well. So everything is all done for it. So that helps. But sentence complexity has some complex parts to it. So there's variety, and then there's structure and all of that. So I end up doing many, many lessons on that. And then we move on to quarter 3, which is figurative language and vivid imagery. Now, sometimes I'm able to get that in at in semester 1 a little bit earlier. It just kind of depends on whether they're ready to move on from that. And then by the end, we're layering show, don't tell, and then we're combining all 6 of them. Now, throughout the year, once a semester, sometimes you could do more. You could do a unit, month, whatever you want to do. But for me, I find that if I give a skills assessment on these particular skills at least once a semester, then they know that during writer's workshop, they need to be trying as hard as they can to master the skill because they will eventually get a grade on it. It's just they're not getting a grade every time they're in workshop because they're practicing it until they're ready. And then I'll show you the skills assessment I do. I actually have them choose 2 of the skills they want to be graded on. And they're given, like a rubric up to 5 points for each one. So they might choose voice and hook or complexity, whatever they want to do, the 2. And I have them highlight them so I can find it in there quickly, which ones they want me to take a look at. So with that combination of like anchoring with the essays and then once or twice a month, yeah, doing the race strategy, and then the skills are at least a couple of days a week when we're doing workshop, 2 days a week with the workshop, then they're working on all 3 of these really high priority skills. So by the time, you kind of like, it's like a symphony. And by the time it gets to the end of the year, it all kind of comes together and it feels a little bit chaotic, but I feel really comfortable now with the way that this is all set up that I'm going to hit everything that it is I need to hit. Okay, so if you want to just subscribe, and I will be giving some more information coming up on how to do the race strategy and how I do that. And then below, just check out some links. If you haven't seen my ebook, I have a free, the introduction is free. So you could check it out and see if you're interested in this kind of like highly engaging, very fun writer's workshop. All right, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.